So now we're into our speaker. So Malcolm Staves is the Corporate Health and Safety Director from L'Oreal. You would have seen some of his details on IOSH on the in the magazine, where he's done some very interesting articles about what he's done at L'Oreal and changing the approach to health and safety. So he has been with L'Oreal since 2008 and has developed strategies for globalisation of health and safety, and is a global occupational health and safety expert partner to the Capital's Coalition, working to put health and safety into the human capital and sustainability agendas. He's also working closely with Louise on some other exciting projects, so keep an eye out for those. And you'll see there's a little bit of a small emblem next to him. He is also a very strong Chelsea fan. It's sad for him, but someone's got to support Chelsea. So,
am I not allowed to say anything here? I mean, that's an insult.
There's no comeback here, Malcolm. You've just got to sit there and take it.
All right, I've just changed my presentation. The whole subject's going to be different now.
So next we're going to go over to Malcolm. Have a short intro though from Alan.
Yeah, hello there, Malcolm. When we first posted the advert, the flyer for this event on Twitter, we had a bit of banter because the title was Life, and I'm a lifelong Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fan. I said, "Life, don't tell me about life," quoting Marvin, the paranoid android. For anybody here of the younger generation, this was first on BBC Radio in 1978, and I recorded all of the first episodes on a cassette tape, which I still have. But anyway, he had many quotes. As I said, life, don't talk to me about life. And he went on to say something like, here I am, brain the size of a planet, and all I've done is park cars for millennia. Well, as for Malcolm, it might be debatable that he's got a brain the size of a planet, but we're certainly looking forward to hear. We're certainly looking forward to hearing how you think and work globally, Malcolm. So over to you anyway. We're really looking forward to this. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for that. Didn't quite expect that. But, you know, Alan, I just may have the answer to the question of the meaning of life for you. You never know, huh? You never know. We'll see how it goes. Right, let me share my screen. So, should be good. I can see it myself because I've got the screen on a separate one. Okay, so glad to be with you guys. It's been quite a journey so far with Luke and Lee. We've had several conversations. We could have spoken for hours. But so it's a privilege for me to be here. I'll take all the questions that you've got, whatever kind of questions you want to ask. I preferred them towards the end and through Lee and through Luke. And maybe what you can do is put them into chat. Just a quick picture of me. The last ever time I got out of the house was, believe it or not, well, properly was for the IOSH 2019 conference, which probably some of you were at, whereby I actually presented on human capital and the role of the occupational safety and health profession, both today and in the future. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. So let me go through some of my slides. So just as an overview of who we are, and sort of L'Oreal is a little bit like a, I would say, a holding company. We have a lot of different brands globally across four main industries. 36 of them are what we call iconic brands. We have approximately 18% of the world's cosmetic, or what we like to call as the beauty market. Some of those you'll probably have already seen. Some of them you'll know they're associated with L'Oreal, but maybe there are other ones that you never thought were part of L'Oreal at all. We have 88,000 employees that work full-time for L'Oreal, and at any one time, approximately 250,000 temporary workers. We also have 41 manufacturing plants, 100 distribution centers, and 430 admin sites. So plus 1,500 stores like NYX. If any of you are familiar with the NYX brand, that NYX is fully owned by L'Oreal. But what that gives us from a health and safety point of view is a nightmare. A nightmare purely because of all the different types of cultures. The kind of culture that you see, for example, in a manufacturing plant or a distribution center is not the same that you'll find in a marketing environment where the brands are. Somebody that's lived marketing and branding for 20, 30 years. You know, it's not the same approach. So we also have 650 environmental health and safety professionals. At corporate level, I have health, safety, well-being, and fire prevention, plus the EHS global audit programs. But I have an equivalent that drives environment at corporate, especially with our, our CO2 emissions, wastewater emissions, etc. Targets. But as you focus down through the zones, and we have 5 main zones worldwide, plus the countries, which we're in about 147, if I remember right, we have an EHS structure. So I have a person in charge of EHS at each country level, a person in charge of EHS at each zone level, and then in our sites, it can vary between 1 person for a small distribution center through to up to 9 EHS professionals in a manufacturing plant of around about 650 people. But even though we're so diverse in what we do, we have an approach of 1 mission, 1 vision, 1 group, okay? The idea is to have exactly the same target, the same mission, the same tools, but adapted to local culture and the business culture as needed. But this is what we've been doing. We've been on this journey now for 12 years, which is approximately when I joined L'Oreal. And at that time, it was primarily manufacturing where health and safety was, which is probably a lot of you know as occupational health and safety professionals. Very often, health and safety is born in manufacturing, okay? But that's only approximately 20% of our population. So 12 years ago, L'Oreal decided that we needed to spread the wings of health and safety into these other areas of activities. And that was the reason I was hired. I actually came from outside of L'Oreal. But I wanted to start off with our professionals. Our professionals are key to everything, our IOSH professionals. This is what the equivalent of the IOSH maybe blueprint, but it's our equivalent of the blueprint. This was put in place in 2012, and we're still working on this. And basically, the bottom line for what you should remember is that it's all we're trying to drive from being. There's an echo on the line. I don't know who's got not on mute. Going from EHS being occupational health and safety professionals being recognized as being experts to actually being leaders, driving occupational health and safety from a visionary point of view, from a coaching point of view, better collaboration, better listening skills. And this is where we've been driving for a number of years. So most of our occupational health and safety people actually do leadership training. They do management training, project management training, and we expect them to maintain their expertise as well. There is no other profession that I know of that needs the kind of skills that our people do, and it's very important for the future. Just want to present my team, very small team, including people that are experts on toxicology, ergonomics, process safety, behavioral-based safety, plus also as well with this team, each one of them is allocated a zone. So not only do they have an expertise role, but they also have a leadership role with respect to driving programs, driving risk assessments, etc., within the actual zones. Currently, as part of our program, I have 2 other people attached to my teams. This is part of what I call the continuous professional development. One person is head of health and safety for Brazil. He's now come into my team working 1 day per week, so he's still living in Brazil, and he's looking after our Safe at Work, Safe at Home program, the ROSPA Awards programs that we enter into. So he's coordinated that. So the idea is to give somebody from in one of our countries, in this case, a larger global visibility, allow him to evolve and see whether he is capable of eventually maybe taking a much more senior role, which could be in my team. Same thing with the person below, except for this person is an EHS manager within an EHS team in our Cairo plant. This guy has now come on board and he's looking after the program Life, along with my life expert. And he is helping us update it and upgrade it. But again, he's a plant person. Why did we involve him? Because operationally, he has experience of what we're doing. So his input is vital. But at the same time, he's working with people in China, Brazil, Canada, Venezuela, across the globe. So our approach to safety, we've been trying to simplify and declutter for about the last 5 or 6 years, is to try and give meaning to what health and safety means. So and that means also to the senior management. So we've adapted our language, we've adapted our messages so that we get on board these people that are in marketing, these people that are in sales in shops, and not just the manufacturing people. Our basic approach is very simple, which probably most of you know. It's risk management, excellence, and beyond. So our foundation is risk management. The first thing we have to make sure, it's not the number of lost time accidents, it's not our lost time frequency rate, and it's not the number of medical treatment cases. It's the number of people that die as a result of working for L'Oreal. So that has to be the number one thing. And we have a program that's called Life. That's our major program within our risk management suite of programs. And that we're going to go into in a little bit more detail. We also have a program called Ergonomic Attitude. We launched ergonomics globally 12 years ago. We have our own virtual reality design tools for designing new equipment, whether it be in a manufacturing plant, whether it be in an admin site. And our final program, which is our Beyond program, where we're going beyond the gates of L'Oreal, is the program Safe at Work, Safe at Home, which we won't go into a lot of detail here. We have main 8 pillars that drive our safety program. And basically, the ones to remember, the most important are visible felt leadership, employee engagement, and risk management. Okay, they are the 3 key ones within our 8 pillars. And then finally, we use what is a hybrid of what some of you may know as the DuPont Bradley curve. We call it our own EHS culture curve. And basically, it drives us towards interdependency. But depending on where you are within that journey will depend on what tool you should be using. Historically, we used to say, oh, just do this tool. This is a new tool. This is fantastic. This will drive us to the next level. This is people taking care of the brothers and sisters, etc. But what we found was that if the culture was not ready to apply that tool, then it was a waste of time and effort, and the tool failed. So about 4 or 5 years ago now, we then decided that we needed to go back to, not back to basics, but to revisit what we did and how we did it. So we now apply the right tool at the right time. So if you haven't got all the items of Life and the other risk management tools in place, then you're not ready to go on to our line management behavioral-based safety program, or you're not ready to have put in place our SIO program, which creates conversations between the line manager and all the employees. It's the right tool at the right time. On a high-level strategy, just to give you a bit of a feel, it's where we're focusing at the moment. Visible felt leadership is something we never give up on. Whenever we find that we have an issue in a plant or a zone or a number of sites or an admin site, it always comes down to the difference is not our tools or adding a new tool. The problem is always visible felt leadership. Risk management, we're all convinced. Employee involvement and engagement is an absolute must, because at the end of the day, we can't be there all the time, nor the IOSH professional, nor the line managers. So we need to teach people to see risk, to identify risk and to react to it. Health and well-being we've been doing for a long time. The ergonomic program, in that program, we have things like warm up and stretching. We didn't call it mental health, we called it psychosocial risk at the time. We have nutrition. All those things come under that program, ergonomics, which now it's topical to talk about mental health and well-being. So we're going to change our wording to go back to what Alan said. You know, we brought something out of the back. We're simplifying our system. We're still simplifying it. And because over the years, our system has grown like layers of onions. So now we're going to demystify it, try and make it simple. And it's not about going back to basics, right? It's more of a reset to find out with what we are doing, what is the value added? Is it adding value? Or do we even have some tools out there that we just did because it seemed to be the right thing to do, and there's no actual value of that tool. The other thing, like everybody else, we're looking at what we call next generation tools, which is basically our digitalization and our new technology program, whether it be exoskeletons, whether it be the use of apps, and etc. However, with one twist, we've decided that it has to add business value, create value to the people on the shop floor where it matters. So it's not digitalization, for example, for the sake of digitalization. And our KPI to identify whether a tool, a digitalization tool is worth doing, depends on whether we can reduce the amount of paperwork in a site, and we can free up the IOSH professionals, we can free up the line management, so they should be on, so they can be off on the shop floor talking safety to people, talking health and safety, rather than filling in forms in the office. So we're coming now a little bit more into the live program, give you a little bit of approach of how we manage risk and those events that can kill people in our sites throughout L'Oréal. First off, for anything that you can think of that is high risk activity that we do, whether it be the use of flammables, manufacture of cosmetics under pressure, under vacuum, high temperature, low temperature, powders, etc. We have a directive for each one of those that defines how this risk is managed globally, right? There's no negotiation in some of these. There's some slight modification where it requires legislative compliance, but there's no negotiation. For example, if we take fire and explosion, we apply ATEX, which most of you may know about, globally. So ATEX is our minimum standard, whether you're in China, Australia, the United States, or Brazil. Same thing for NFPA for fire protection, global, whether you're in Vietnam, whether you're in Taiwan, whether you're in India, NFPA is the minimum standard that we apply. We also have an internal CE marking program, which you're all probably familiar with. We take the part of validation, the risk assessments and everything, and actually giving the equipment a stamp. And in our case, it's either traffic lights, it's either red, yellow, or green, but that we apply worldwide. So if you visited one of our sites in South Africa or in Kenya, their equipment is internally safety validated. We have a live program, sites at risk. We had a major event not long ago whereby there was a big fire in a Lubrizol factory about a year and a half ago. And we looked at that and said, could that happen to us in L'Oréal? What would the impact if we had a fire in one of our DCs, a major fire that not only on the reputation of L'Oréal, but also on the lives of people, both in L'Oréal and external. So what we've done, we've taken what you call COMA in the UK, or the Seveso directive, and we've applied it to every single one of our sites worldwide. So if a site in Argentina would have been classified as being Seveso if it was located in Europe, then we classify it as a Seveso, and we treat it as a Seveso site from an internal perspective. We also have some external risk audits as well. That is done independently every 3 years with a purely focus on risk. Sites at risk we've spoken about, but this was the Lubrizol event. Which was in France, which was a bit of a wake-up call for a lot of people. Within the fatality, duty of care, and liability management, we have programs besides life, which we're going to talk about soon, but we have other programs that focus on people, focus on conversations between the manager and the employee, his team, with the objective of being able to look them in the eyes and say, your safety is the most important thing to me, and for the next 15 minutes, we're going to talk about you, or 20 minutes, or 30 minutes. We also have an SIO program, which stands for Safety Improvement Opportunities, which is hazard reporting. And basically, anybody within the world of L'Oréal can report this into a system. And the SIO they raise is managed by the manager. The idea is that, first off, it creates a conversation between manager and employee. Secondly, is visible felt leadership by the manager, because he's actually taken on board this idea. He just doesn't give it to the IOSH professional or anybody else. And thirdly, we impose globally a 90% closure rate for all of the SIOs. So for every single SIO that's raised, 90% of them need to be closed in a year. And at corporate level, I track that for every single site worldwide. Just to let you know, in a typical year on between the action items that come out of Mesure, which is our line management BBS, sorry, and the Sio program is in the region of about 75,000 actions. Now, these are things that are designed to keep people safe before there's even been a near miss. For those that like the iceberg, we're working below the iceberg. We're looking for things that could be a potential near miss, could be a potential first aid case, or even worse. So we're working at risk situations, at risk practices with these programs. The IOSH resources we've already spoken about. Let's go to life. So life is life-changing incidents and fatality events. So why did we invent this? I mean, it's a SIF program. For those that work in occupational health and safety, it's SIF. But from our point of view, originally we had everything in all our directives. We have 100 occupational health and safety directives globally. And within them, there were these high risk requirements, you know, and some of them were more critical than others. However, you could be 99% in compliance with our requirements, but the 1% where you're not could be the biggest risk ones. And over a number of audits, when we started doing real detailed trend analysis on our audits, etc., we said, well, that's just not good enough. You know, we need to do better. So we decided to take those items out and put them in their own separate program, which we called LIFE. Okay, LIFE, as I said, stands for life-changing incident or fatality event. We use an acronym. And why LIFE and not SIF? It's all about marketing and selling. Part of our job and what we do is selling safety. It's selling health. It's selling well-being. And when you talk to somebody about a SIF, whoever wants to talk about a SIF or a HOP or whatever you want to call it, it means nothing to senior management. Life is life. Life speaks. The other thing that we found in L'Oreal was a lot of our managers, which change every 3 to 4 years at senior level, they change jobs. I've never lived an accident. We have approximately 80 to 85% of our sites that have zero lost time accidents in a year. And when we look at seriousness, last year, for example, we had over the temporary workers plus L'Oreal people, 350,000, we had 100 lost time accidents globally, right? Now, these are 24 hours. So if you took something like a RIDDOR 7-day reporting that you have in the UK, in that population, I had about 7 what you would classify RIDDOR accidents, and they were all ergonomic related. Okay, most of the other ones are quite minor. And when we talk about accidents, it includes calendar days. So we include those days when you're not supposed to work, but if we wanted you to work, you couldn't come back. So many of those, if we were just counting work days, I think we reduced our number of accidents by about half. But the problem about that, it gives you a comfort factor. People think it's done. People think the performance is good, and they become complacent. Okay, and as a result, sensitivity to high risk reduces. Our risk assessment programs primarily that we had are based on brainstorming. And the problem is with brainstorming is that you don't know what you don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. So if you're not an expert on ergonomics, you're not an expert on electricity, maybe, or electrostatic electricity, maybe you won't identify that as being a problem. And as I said, the acronym LIFE was very, very important because life just attracts everybody. Doesn't matter where you work in the world, everybody knows about life, and life is life. So our cycle of life, and some of it we've sort of touched on, we have directives, we have a scan tool, which is basically an evaluation tool that every single site globally has to use and reports their status to corporate on a monthly basis. We have campaigns, which I'll show you a little bit later, and then we have KPIs and audits. And the KPI for the LIFE program is 100%. I mean, there is no other target, but again, I'll explain that to you a little bit later. Within this program as well, we've reinvented the way we look at, I'm going to call it our global hazards. Okay, so it's not your little risk assessment of a machine, you know, or of a workstation or whatever. So with the MANCOM, the senior management team of each site, they have to perform a gap, and it can only be initiated and driven by one person, which is the site manager. It's not driven by EHS. And basically, they have to ask themselves the question quite simply, how can we kill somebody in this site, or how can we have an irreversible accident? That's all they ask themselves. And they have to look into the various aspects of activities within the sites and the different type of risk, and identify, is there a possibility that if in the worst case scenario, we could kill somebody? We don't look at probability, okay, or frequency. If it can happen once in 100 years or once in 150 years, then we treat it, okay? Because that kind of ratio is not acceptable when it comes to people and people's lives. So the other thing that comes into the gap, which is slightly different to what I've just described, is anything that's audit and visits of the high-ranking findings. You know, we call them finding A's, for example, or finding B. They're the most important one. B is typically legal compliance, whereas A will be something like that. We can have a really major incident, and maybe, you know, because people are human and sites can't see every single risk, although you could argue that at this level they should. And the other thing we want them to put in is actual trends. Within the live program, you can see the scan tool is the red tool, the red graphics that you can see. Every site fills that in themselves. Then you can see at the top, there's our campaigns. There's a poster campaign through each one of the life initiatives, and there's 10 life initiatives like confined space, driving, hazardous energies, chemical risk, etc., working at height. There's 10 of those. But what's quite unique and what's quite good, and I think for anybody that can use, each one of those, we create a sheet for a safety conversation between a manager and his team. And that manager is expected to sit down with his team and talk about a subject. It could be driving, could be lone working, and say, okay, does this apply to us? And if it does, what can we do about it, and how? Right? So the idea being is that it creates that conversation, raises the level of awareness, helps people think, risk. I never thought of that before. Yes, that could happen to me. So it gets people thinking about it in a very conversational thing under the visible felt leadership of the manager. The other thing that happens in many sites, which links into the Safe at Work, Safe at Home program that I mentioned, is that after we talk about lone worker or electricity or whatever the subject, the manager in many sites will turn around and say, and at home? How does this apply at home? So we then switch it from actually this being just local to the site to also being something that possibly can help at home, whereby there's maybe a risk that we deal with differently at home than we do at work. And one of the things I can think about, which many of you probably do, is how many of you would stand on a chair when changing a light bulb at work? You wouldn't. But yet many people probably do at home. These are an example of the kind of safety contact that we give to our management team across the board. It's translated into the relevant languages, and as you can see, there are commitments, three main commitments that'll come up in each of these categories, and very often they're posted on the wall. They're very personal to the team, and it just helps you take safety to the next level. The level of safety matters to me, not just because L'Oreal wants me to work safely, but safety matters to me because I want to go home and play football for Chelsea, ideally, or I want to go for a walk in the park. I want to walk with my wife, my loved one. I want to hold my baby. That's why safety matters. And that's part of what we do by flipping this by using the idea of the safe at work, safe at home concept. So I'm going to wind down here. I've give you a lot of stuff, okay? And then I'm going to open it up to questions if there are any, and if they're not, we can all maybe go home early. Not that I want to. I'd love to talk more to you. But first thing is, for us, for the way I look at it, going back to what we're all about making sure that people don't go home in a coffin. And our people will not, as a result of working for you or for L'Oreal, end up with a fatal illness or an irreversible illness or anything like that now or even in 20 years' time. That's our first thing to do, okay? I mean, we then have to avoid the accidents and all the rest of it, yes. But I would rather have 10 or 20 minor first aid cases than one death. And I know every one of you there would think the same, okay? When it comes to life and the life of the people that work for us, the people that work for you, there's no second chance, huh? There's no second chance. So you need to make the tough decisions now. What we do with the program Life, which is quite draconian, is we say, this is the requirement and you must follow it word for word. No deviation, no discussion at this moment, follow it word for word. If you can't and you think you have a better way to do it, then you need to go to an external person, an external competent authority, get a report done that identifies that the way you are managing it is an alternative to the way that we've identified. And when I say we, it was with my 27 EHS directors plus some sites as well. So this list of things that we require of our sites within Life was developed by everybody. If you don't comply, you don't have the external report, then the activity stops. And it doesn't matter what the cost is to the business, because there is no cost when it comes to people, okay? So you need to look for these kind of life incidents or potential incidents. And as you've seen, you know, with some of the programs that we have even outside of the Life program, we do look for them, you know, entering into conversations with people about the way they work, the way we have the SIO program whereby people report hazards, you know, 75,000 of them every year, 90% closed. I don't know what the result of that work is. I don't know how many accidents I've avoided or how many deaths has been avoided in L'Oreal. What I do know it's the right thing to do. And by eliminating things at that level, I'm convinced that it doesn't have an effect further up the tree. Don't forget that people are human. As people, we are geared to make mistakes. We are geared to learn from our mistakes. Therefore, people, when they work, they don't get injured on purpose. They don't go out of the way to be injured. Something's happened that's resulted in them putting themselves in the line of fire. So from that point of view, it's very important not to forget that people will fail, and that no matter what systems you've put in place, if they're not bulletproof, if they're not really, really tight, if they're not engineered out, then one of these days you will have an accident. And the question is, how serious is that accident going to be? The other thing is that we believe within L'Oreal is, and I believe personally myself, is that you have to make it your passion. You know, health, safety, well-being of people, of yourself, it has to be your passion. You know, and I think if you have a passion that you deliver to people through your communications, through your presentations, then you will change the world, right? You will change the way people see, because they see your conviction. You're not just being towing the line, the old-fashioned, what I call the boring presentation, death by PowerPoint and all the rest of it. And finally, if you want to go that extra mile, you need to get your people involved. You need to get your people understanding it. You need to make health, safety, their health and safety, you need to make it personal to them. And that's not easy. If you think about it, you're going from macro fitting, this is the approach, everybody's going to follow it, these are the rules, to saying safety is personal because we're all individuals. But how? Think of it. How do you change? How do you change so that somebody says, yeah, I get it. Safety is really, my safety and safety of my people is important to me. And that's what we've done with Safe at Work, Safe at Home. We've changed the conversation. So it's a conversation about, I work safely for L'Oreal, not because L'Oreal requests me to, but because I want to work safely so that I spend time with my family, with the people that matter outside of work. Alan, the answer's 42, my friend. Okay, I'm done.
Fantastic. Thank you, Malcolm. Absolutely brilliant. I'm very engaging. Thank you.
I don't know. I'll give you a quick fire. I believe in giving it very, very fast and to the point, but hopefully the main messages came over for everybody.
Well, that was absolutely great and very appreciated. We've got plenty of questions came in the chat, but
oh no!
Is there anybody who would like to come off mute and ask Malcolm a question personally? If you would, you're more than welcome. Paul Daly, did you have a question for us earlier?
I did, yeah. Thanks, Luke. I don't know if you can hear me okay.
Yeah,
yes.
Hi, Paul.
I'm just scrolling up myself now to remember what it was. I think it's in relation to, there's a lot of focus on soft skills or critical people skills, I suppose, as you'd call them. A lot of people call them rather than soft. And the technical, and that was just my question. What were your thoughts on the ratio or the breakdown for the health and safety professions, particularly people coming into the profession? It's, I suppose in the past it would have been heavily focused on technical. How do you see it? You know, if you're employing somebody or taking on somebody or interviewing somebody, obviously depending on the role, but what's your general thoughts on that? Thanks.
No, thank you very much. It's a great question. I think you saw from one of the earlier slides that, you know, we focus on other aspects besides just the expertise. When we hire people more and more, especially at senior level within occupational health and safety, we're looking for leadership skills and management skills. We're not looking for expertise. But you need to look at it as a whole. So what we very often do is we make sure that the teams that work for these senior people have all of the right skill sets, whether it be process safety, whether it be fire safety, whether it be risk assessment, etc. So we look at the whole of the team and its organization. But from our point of view and my point of view, we need to be seen as leaders. We need to be seen as managers, and we need to have those right kind of skills. If not, how can we influence the senior management? How can we really communicate and train well to operators or to the senior team? So we've been working on that for a while, and we're seeing the dividends. We're seeing the dividends. But you've just got to get the team right, if I can say that, Paul. So for somebody that's a young potential future leader, I would say from day one, work on your management, communication, presentation skills, and the leadership will come. You know, leadership comes with time. I don't think it's something that you can say you're a leader. I think leadership is something you earn, that people say, yes, that person is a leader. But work on management skills, communication skills, presentation skills. Get the message over. I don't know whether that fully answers your question, Paul, but it's about the best I can do unless you want to add to it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Thanks, Malcolm.
You're on mute, Luke. Hey, Luke, it's pretty good when the actual presenter has to tell you you're on mute.
I know, I apologise for that, sorry. I'm a bit nervous, to be fair.
Hey.
Monica, you had some questions that you would like to ask. Would you like to ask Malcolm? Would you like to come off mute and ask Malcolm?
Oh, hi Malcolm. Thank you for that. That was a really lovely presentation, and your passion came through so clearly.
Thank you.
I've just got a couple of questions which I could probably tie in as one. I'm starting out in health and safety. This is something that's completely different to what I've been doing for the past almost 30 years. What advice would you give to people like me who are starting out? I mean, how did you find when you started out was there a point where you actually thought, I can do this?
I've lost you, Monica.
Or not? Hello?
Is it just me?
I can hear you. Can you still hear me?
Hello?
Hello?
Can
we
anybody
hear
hear me?
Monica?
Hello?
I can hear Monica fine. Are you struggling there, Malcolm?
I can hear Monica.
Yeah, Monica seems fine. Can you hear us, Malcolm?
My voice travels.
Luke, can you hear me?
I can, yes. Yeah, can you hear us? Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Have you, I don't know, he's going to, okay, let's give him a moment and see if he comes back
I
to us.
can't hear you anymore.
Well, I can hear Monica.
Yeah, I can hear
and
fine.
see whether any of us can answer her question.
Quite possibly. Has anybody got any answers for Monica?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
I don't know what happened. Do you want to answer that? Can we go back to that question?
Yeah, just quickly, I was just wanting to know, when you started out, for someone like myself, when did you realise that this was actually going to work out how you planned it to work out, and when you felt confident enough to go out on your own and think, this is it, I can do this? It's taken so many months or so many years where you actually felt that you were confident enough in yourself to do this. Like I said, for me, it's a complete change of career.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not a health and safety professional, okay? I haven't got a single health and safety qualification. I have an engineering background, okay? So I went to Loughborough University and did chemical engineering. I have a master's in environmental management, and I've done a lot of work since. I fell into health and safety because I took one of the first sites globally in can manufacturing. I worked for a UK company called Nikanko to 14,001. And they said to me, well, can you do the same for safety afterwards? You know, can you apply systems approach? We're looking for somebody. So I said, yes. So I don't actually have any qualifications, but what I am is I am confident in myself, if you know what I mean. And I think that helps. I've really worked though on my presentation skills over the years, my communication skills, and I do something that I love as well. So my advice is if this is what you love, health, safety, well-being, then just let the passion flow out and you'll do very well. But, you know, I think that's what I did. I focused on my communication, presentation skills. I was very initially, even though confident, very nervous to do public speaking. I remember the first time I did a presentation for IOSH was back in 2016, and honestly, I was having a bad time of nerves before, but I got over it, you know, in preparation. So, and that is one thing as well. In the earlier years, you know, I didn't ever think that I knew everything, and I still don't. I believe in networking, and I always ask my friends, my colleagues from other companies. And the other thing is, you know, if you don't know something, I always say that I don't know, but I'll find out. So it's very difficult to say what to do, but I've been through the journey that you're embarking on, and you've picked a great subject. It's a tremendous profession to be part of.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Malcolm. We have a couple of great questions. We have one from Kath McKinnon. How do you get managers to own their safety rather than expecting the HSE manager to manage it for them?
Whoa, that's the silver bullet question. Okay, now I'd just like to introduce you to Malcolm Staves Consultancy Inc. £1,500 per hour for consultancy. Okay, no, that's a great question. You know something? I don't tell managers that they need to own safety, because I don't believe in forcing them to do something they're not ready to do. Okay, what I do believe in is putting programs in place that puts them on the right journey. I think an individual can go on its own journey towards an interdependent safety culture. We're all in different stages as individuals on our journey. Managers are the same. So I think you have to realize that people are individuals. You can't force somebody to be somebody driving safety as a manager if he just doesn't get it. There is a first step to take on board. So we in L'Oreal, we have lots of people like this, and we have systems in place that get them out on the shop floor, talking safety on a conversational basis. So some of the time, you know, they don't get it, but because of the processes, they're actually going out and talking, and over time, they start to change. So that's what I believe in. I believe the health and safety professional has to be coached. They have to be coaches. They have to be able to coach and mentor line managers in order to develop those skills, to take ownership, to understand why safety is important. And as an example, in all the companies that I've worked for, I've always picked one or two projects of senior individuals within the organization that I will spend special time with, because I know if I can convert them as soon so that they get what it means, health and safety, and want to drive it within their teams, then I'm going to influence a lot of people, right? So that is basically my approach. I don't think you can if people don't get it, they don't get it. And I don't think you can turn around to them and say, now you must get safety, and now you must do it. And I think what we need to do is to help them by being better coaches, better trainers, better mentors, to allow them to embark on that journey. That's what I believe.
Perfect. Thank you, Malcolm. Ada, you've had your hand up. Would you like to ask Malcolm a question?
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I would like
Hi, Ada.
to ask. Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. Really, I like it. I would like to ask you a question. Actually, I'm having experience on nursing, 11 years. Then I came for health and safety, and now already I'm going to finish my master's degree in occupational health and safety. So my worries is that I'm not having experience on HSE, but already I helped myself. That means I'm having an ISO lead auditor. I'm having also NUBISH, so plus this master degree. And also I'm confident that much because already I practiced some skills like presentation, management during my nursing. I was so active to do all that. But now my question, whatever I learned from NUBISH, from a master degree from Six University, I can, because there is a post, but mostly company, they would like to do safety, but they would like to do some HSE advisor, which they will think about their cost. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going without experience only, I will practice whatever I learned. So I don't know how I can do it. Plus also my passion in well-being. Okay, yep. And in our country, still well-being is not that much, so they are mostly focusing on environmental. So what I would like to do, that's I would like to compound to join both of them in one.
Yep.
Okay, so I would like to guide them that still we have to see in well-being, but I'm feeling that from my inside I'm having that confidence because already I did. Through nursing, but how I can I don't know how I can let them to that accept me, that's to take this opportunity, or you can advise me to do some other experience.
Experience is always good, but I think what you've just said to me, and this is not a coaching session, is that you're actually doing yourself down, in the sense that you appear to be starting from a negative point of view. I think what you can do is take all that positive stuff you've done, think about the preparation of the interviews you're going to go for and talking to people and say, this is how your skill sets, this is how your experience is going to make a difference to them. This is how the way you collaborate, your experience on well-being, this is what it means to them. So don't let them use the experiencing. Experience is important, but I think in your position, you need to change the conversation so that you're highlighting not the fact that you haven't got experience, but you're highlighting the skills and you have. And working as a nurse is a fantastic job. You work with people. You have to work with a whole range of different people. Build on those skills that you have next time you have an interview. Don't let the experience be in health and safety be an issue. And when people talk to you about that experience, say, I have that experience. I have cared for people. I have looked after people, and build upon that. So take control of the conversation rather than submit to the questions of the individual. That's what I would recommend to somebody like you going on that kind of journey.
Advise me that's been the experience which I took 11 years with nursing. It's, I think, so enough, because really I deal with the people and I know what is the risk and I know what is their needs. Plus also I know what is the problem, how it will be and how serious it's problem, because already I know about the diseases.
Well, then what you're just saying there, okay, is exactly the approach you should take when you talk to these people. And you should say, yes, I do have the experience, and it's working with people, it's nursing, it's health, it's collaborating with people, it's talking to people, which is all part of the expertise that we need to have. We need to be able to work with people at all levels. So I wouldn't have a problem. I think you've got a good background, and I think you should be very confident when you go into interviews, but take control of them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Thanks, Luke.
Alan Plum, would you like to come off mute and ask your question?
42, Alan. 42, my friend.
Well done, Malcolm.
Yeah, well, thank you. You've had over 160 non-Marvins all listening to you, and you've been able to talk about life, so that's good. Yeah, I've had some limited experience working in Central Asia, where the local regulators and the national systems actually sort of impede and conflict when you're trying to get over a risk assessment-based approach. You clearly have had to face that through some of those 147 countries, I think you said you work in.
Something like that.
Are there any you haven't managed to overcome those difficulties yet? I mean, inside and outside the plant?
No, to be honest with you. Our biggest challenge, though, is risk perception. You know, the value of life, the value is different across different countries. And sometimes, you know, what I see as a risk, if I go to India, you know, they see risk differently. I mean, I'm scared to cross the road in Mumbai, but a local, an Indian person has no problem. They just walk across and they get across, no problem. And so risk perception's different. And like with people on scaffolding in some countries in the world, you know, you think, oh my goodness gracious. So I don't think that's so much of a problem with our programs because we're global, all right? And there's non-negotiable on all our risk assessment programs are that way. But the problem is the risk perception, and where the risk perception isn't at the same level as, say, what our expectations are at corporate level, then that's where you can get mistakes, and that's where potentially you can have fatalities. And you know, like most companies, I hate to say this, I mean, we've had a fatality. I mean, I had a fatality. I've had one fatality in 15 years at L'Oreal, 12 years at L'Oreal, and that was a beauty advisor driving. You know, the lady was had been up all night with she was a single mum, 3 children. One of the children was ill all night. She got in the car in the morning and went off to work. She'd left the 3 kids with her brother because for the time being, but brother said, well, I've got to go to work eventually, but he would look after them for a while. So I would thought maybe on the phone, trying to look for a babysitter, somebody to look after the kids as she's driving. And unfortunately, that day on the road, there was a lorry that was parked that had an accident, in fact, right? But the safety barrier at the back where the number plate normally is was not there. She didn't see it, and she hit the lorry at 85 kilometers per hour. Now, it's the saddest thing. I mean, and we have you know, and the 3 kids afterwards had no mum. But I asked myself, what could we have done? You know, how can you predict all of that in a risk assessment process? You can do, you know, something like that can happen. And that is a scary bit about what we do. We can do so much. And then at the end of the day, something can happen. Sorry, Luke, you came back on then. I got a bit of backlash. But it's, you know, and it's the biggest pain that I have is that, you know, no matter what we do worldwide, someday because people are human, we could have that kind of accident that we don't want to talk about. And it pains me every day.
Yeah, no, thank you for that.
Thank you, Malcolm. We've got loads of questions. We'll just try through another couple, if you don't mind.
My time is your time.
Okay, great, thank you. We've got one from Helen Greenberg. She would like to know, how has COVID-19 and people working from home impacted your safety endeavours, your coaching, relationships with your colleagues, etc.?
First thing is our ergonomic we already have people working from home as part of our policy, maybe 1 day a week or something like that, for quite a number of years. So we already had programs in place for, you know, ergonomic workstations. We've got an app and a website that people can access, which all those things about warm up and stretching, moving around, drinking, rest. All those things were already in place. So we just activated those, and we added things for in COVID. What we've also found in COVID is that we need to spend more time talking to people. So we put out training and communications worldwide, asking team managers to spend time just talking to the teams, having conversations that were outside of work, having a cup of coffee. With my team, for example, we played games. We played Hangman. We played sort of like Happy Families, you know, where you match up pairs and things like that. And we did that throughout L'Oreal. And we also, for example, a few months back, with the initiative of my corporate team, where I have an ergonomics expert, we've given everybody wireless keyboards, mouse pad, a stand to lift up the laptop to the right level, and that was globally. We've given that to 60,000 employees. I mean, it's only 150 euros a go, but when you multiply that by 60,000, it was a lot. And it took the ExCom 5 minutes to make the decision when we presented that to them. So we've done the right thing. We are also a company that believes in great place to work. So it's a little bit within our DNA to actually try and do the right things by people, by putting people into the center. So the COVID it was a problem for us because of the length of time that people have spent at home, but we tried to activate and get that sorted through chats through the managers. I mean, if you take my team again, where I can talk from direct experience, I would have a full meeting with them every week, but 3 coffee mornings with them every week, which was 15 minutes, where we would just talk about absolutely nothing. And then we had a WhatsApp and stuff like that. So we still struggle of mental health issues, if that was part of the question as well. I mean, people are suffering, especially those that are vulnerable, those that were not allowed to sort of come out. They can't come out at all. They've been in lockdown now for most of them for over a year. Some of them are single. They're living alone, and it's difficult, and you have to make a special effort for them. But it's all about caring for people. And I'd like to think that we have a caring sort of culture whereby we like to just, you know, talk to our people and try and identify the low-level signals that then we can report to somebody in HR or report to in France, where we have medical doctors as well. So COVID's been tough.
Thank you. Quick question from myself, if you don't mind, Malcolm. How did you sell the live program idea to your senior management team? And when you did you have any pushbacks?
Oh shit!
Sorry.
I'm sorry about that.
Right.
I don't know where you got that from. I nearly got fired. I nearly got fired. In the sense that we came up with this program, we called it Life, and everybody, we knew in the IOSH world, in our world, exactly what it meant, what was behind it. I thought senior management did. So I presented to the executive, the COMEX member that I report into, and I presented with pride all that we would put in place, the kind of things I presented to you. And we surveyed all assets worldwide. We knew what we were, where we were, and that we were 83% compliant overall with our requirements, knowing that was from a word-by-word point of view, and that the sites have got other things in place. She went ballistic. My 10-minute presentation ended up with a 1.5-hour crucifixion. I mean, she panicked, and I didn't know where it came from. To a lady as well that shouldn't really challenge in front of 60 other senior managers within the organization. And quite simply because I got my language wrong. When she saw 83% compliance with our rules, she made the assumption we have a 17% chance of killing somebody in L'Oreal. And she just went to another planet, another way. And no matter what I said once she was in panic mode, I couldn't convince her or come round to, you know, the fact that it wasn't how she was interpreting it, but it was too late. But what that did do, there was a benefit out of that afterwards. We had a one-to-one. I spent 2.5 hours with her, explaining to her everything that we're doing and how everything was organized. So in the end of the day, the fact that I could explain the detail of what we do, what the team does, what our global teams do, was actually quite a benefit. But I went through a very horrific moment, and for a few weeks afterwards, it was almost as if she'd lost confidence in me. It was a tough time, and thank you for the question.
It's a pleasure, and it was a great answer, and it just goes to show there's always a few hiccups along the way, but you've got to carry on with what you believe in. And
if I can, Luke, the other thing is, you know, we have to think about the language and the people that are in front of us and put ourselves in their shoes before we deliver our message, because they don't always understand it the way we think they're going to understand it the way we think. Yeah. Sometimes I think in these important presentations, just put yourselves in the shoes of the person in front of you. And I didn't in this particular case, I didn't. And it was nearly the end of me.
We have loads and loads of questions. We're very grateful for your time, Malcolm. We are going to start to bring it to a close just now. We are lucky to have Louise Oskin with us today, our Vice President of IOSH, and we just wondered if Louise would want to say a few words towards the close of the presentation. Louise.
Hi, thanks for that, Luke. Yeah, Malcolm, thank you on behalf of everybody on the call. Can I just also say, Luke and Lee, you've done a fantastic job. And actually, all of these sessions that we put on at Chiltern, we all work really hard to give you a really great experience, and we're all really conscious that we can't see each other in person. And part of the reason why we do this is to stay connected with each other, which I think is really, really important at the moment. As Lee said at the beginning of the presentation, applications are currently open for all of the IOSH branches. And if you want to get involved in what we do to put on these sessions, you know, there's been lots of questions that I've been watching in the chat about how can I move up the ladder? How can I, you know, enhance my skills and so on. Some of the best lessons I have learned are from being involved in the Chiltern branch for the last 6 years. You know, we've got 130 branches around the world. So if you are interested in getting involved, then just go to the IOSH LinkedIn site, or you can go to the IOSH website and have a look at what's on offer around the branches, because when you volunteer, it's a great way to get experience in ways that you haven't done before. So all of these things that Malcolm's been talking about presentation skills and building your confidence, because I know that, you know, we're all different, and you know, Malcolm, it's great to hear that you were really nervous when you first presented. And the best way to do that is to practice. And you know, we are a supportive bunch here at Chiltern. I do push people myself, and I have been known to do that. But I think, you know, we've been putting on some great, and as the team have shown, you know, we can all do so much. But yeah, my question, Malcolm, was how are you encouraging diversity of thought in L'Oreal?
Oh,
and you know, one's going.
So if I have the time, so over the last few years, I've increased the gender equality, if we start with gender equality as part of inclusion, within my team to 50-50. I have a remarkable lady that looks after process safety, safe at work, safe at home. Another remarkable woman that looks after my admin sites and my stores globally. And another lady that looks after communications and digital. But the most important thing that I've seen, and I'm not just saying that because you asked a question, Louise, is that there is better dynamics within my team. I have less testosterone, a little bit more collaboration, more discussion, better results coming out. So as a result of that, and L'Oreal has a diversity inclusion program in place, but I'd never really looked at it from a health and safety point of view. So I looked out, and we've got 20% women in our global 650 EHS professionals, 20% approximately are women, of which most of them work in the environmental side. So I said we needed to do something about this, looked at universities around the world, and typically only 20% of the people coming through universities with engineering, technology, EHS qualifications, there's only about 20% women. So we decided in L'Oreal we were going to do something. So I've launched within L'Oreal Women in Safety. We have a big drive on women in safety to raise the profile. And what Louise is fishing for here is that Louise and I were originally, after the 2019 IOSH, we were going to look at STEMs, working at STEMs in the London area to start off with, and developing STEMs within for women, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and qualifications. And we were just talking, I was mentioning to Louise about what we were doing and what we were thinking of doing. She said, oh, well, I know somebody. And I said, well, I know somebody else. And before we knew it, both the two of us had created this global coalition of women in safety networks, which is bringing together women in safety networks now from Canada through to Sri Lanka, the UK, Australia, covering at least 150,000 occupational health and safety members like ASSP, CSSE, etc. So a big drive. And, you know, at the end of the day, if we in our profession make better decisions, right, and if collaboration, gender equality allows us to make better decisions, then better decisions for us means we save lives. So it's a focus within L'Oreal. Maybe it doesn't resonate with a lot of you out there, but our first approach is sort of gender equality, and we think that's going to give us better overall diversity as well as inclusion. But our first approach is on equality. Okay, Louise, that was a loaded question.
Yeah, no, so we've got a great event on the 9th of March, which I'm going to be hosting on the run up to International Women's Day. And it's not just going to be for, we're going to have some just generally great content. So it's something for you guys to look forward to. But yeah, we'd really welcome applications. You know, if you are interested in joining the Chiltern branch or, you know, any of your local branches, you know, do stay connected. You know, this is a challenging job, and it's great to hear this presentation from Malcolm about the journey that he's gone on. And I think it's important for us to be kind to ourselves occasionally as occupational safety and health professionals, and know that everybody is on a journey. And I often talk about journeys, and what we can't do is do everything all in one go, and especially at this time. So, you know, I love that message of you know, really prioritizing what's important and just looking out for each other. So
be the hummingbird, Louise.
Yes. So Luke, is there Lee, is there anything else from you?
No, it's absolutely great. Thank you, Louise. Malcolm, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed the build up to it, mate. It's been great all the time we've spoken. Yeah. Perhaps in the future, it would be lovely to do it again, and maybe we could go towards maybe safe at work and safe at home and have another look at it. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Just one question, Malcolm, before I leave everybody.
Oh.
We've had an overwhelming amount of questions, and if we could get some of those questions down and send them across to you, and you could get some answers, would you be happy to answer them, and we could get them out on social media? Because we have been overwhelmed with them, and it's been a great session.
Honestly, it would be my pleasure.
That would be
a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, on behalf of Chiltern, thank you to everybody who's joined us today. Please look out for the mailers that will be coming out telling you about future sessions. We're grateful for your attendance, and it's been absolutely fantastic, and thank you for your time. Everybody take care in these trying times, and hopefully we'll see some of you again very soon. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.